So guys, I want to explore how you can go about adjusting your mindset, your approach to each and every one of the running sessions within your training week. I think all of us would be aware of the kind of different types of running session that you can kind of expect to see within a running program. But I think the objectives that the individual that's where the individualization will come in, where, what are we looking to achieve for you out of every one of those running sessions? And everyone I work with, or we work with at SFE, will have different objectives that we're trying to achieve. We, as someone who is new to running in general, and especially to trail running, it's essentially like, you're trying to acclimatize them to the kind of the different terrains, they're kind of spending more time on feet. You're understanding their pacing, understanding how they can interpret their levels of work, in terms of whether they're working to perceived exertion, whether they're working to their heart rate. We're trying to kind of develop their how much training load that they can tolerate, how many sessions, how much volume, how much intensity, how quickly we can be ramping this up. But there are individual kind of objectives with each and every one of these different types of running sessions that I would like to be exploring today. And I think, as I said, a lot of you will be familiar with some of these. You've got your kind of steady state endurance effort, which is going to be progressively built up over time, where you're looking to just work to those kind of zone 2 effort. You've got your interval based, you've got your hill based training sessions, which are going to have more potency to them. They're going to be, you're working at these kind of higher intensities, higher RPEs, higher heart rates, but there's going to be this kind of interval kind of based approach to it, where you're going to have that kind of required rest in between those efforts. There may be track sessions involved. There may be those longer steady state efforts at the weekends. But again, what are we looking to achieve from those longer efforts at the weekends? And again, this kind of logic can be applied to you on the bike, you on the run. But essentially, what I want to talk about today is these kind of efforts within your running-based program. Because everyone we're working with, is going to have slightly different kind of outcomes or objectives to each of these types of session, depending on the background that you're coming from. So you're coming back from an injury, you're a well-established runner and you haven't been injured for a long time, you've had a lot of training consistency. There's going to be different objectives that you're kind of looking for within these training sessions. So taking that easy, steady state, zone 2 kind of endurance-based training session, this is a session where you're just looking to establish good cadence, good running technique, good running position. Like you're trying to mirror good running mechanics from the moment you start all the way through to the end of the effort. You are looking to kind of establish a working baseline, and you're looking to kind of maintain that working baseline. You're looking to find what that kind of zone 2 effort feels like to you. And it's going to be that kind of, as a lot of people will talk about, it's going to be that conversation pace. It's going to be that all day pace where you are able to maintain good running mechanics. You're able to kind of keep yourself in a nice, comfortable position. Your head is stacked on your shoulders, stacked on your hips, and your feet are underneath your hips, kind of thing. You're holding good extension through your body. You've got a nice, even, steady cadence. Whether this is 160, 170, 180, I'm not going to get into I'm not a big fan of kind of defining that, because everyone's going to have different run mechanics. I'm not a big fan of dictating people's run mechanics. What I am a big fan of is helping people maintain great running mechanics, no matter how fast, how long, how far they want to go. And what that means is that you've got to be thinking about good running mechanics, no matter what the type of effort. So when we are focusing on these endurance-based efforts, and this can start as low as a 15-minute, 20-minute effort, returning to run, you have lost all confidence in your left leg because of a previous ankle injury, a plantar fascial issue, a knee injury, a hip kind of replacement. There's so many different variables to kind of define where you've lost confidence, you're feeling dysfunctional when you run again, you feel out of sync. Building up that confidence again, finding that steady state effort where you feel like you're in control of your biomechanics. That is a basic objective that you're looking for. And that actually, if you're someone who's been running for years, that is still a basic outcome of one of those endurance efforts. You are finding, you're reinforcing your understanding of what is an easy, steady state zone 2 effort feels like. I was talking to someone today who is working towards a very, very long distance ultra event coming up. And I was reinforcing this and saying, like, some of her runs during the week are only 45 to 60-minute easy efforts. But in terms of her mindset going into it, I wanted her to think about when she was feeling dysfunctional off the back of doing a mountainous section. She's 10 hours into an event, and then she finds herself on a nice, easy, kind of flat 10 kilometer section, re-establishing those kind of basic kind of endurance kind of those kind of steady state mechanics where you're finding that nice easy cadence again. You're finding that nice metronome beat to your mechanics. that actually takes practice, especially if your legs are blown up, you're stiff, you've got that level of fatigue, you've accumulated that level of fatigue in your body. To re-establish those easy kind of mechanics is a practice, it's a rehearsed behavior. And this is what you're looking for. From the moment you start running to years down the line when you are, you're doing hundreds of kilometers a week, potentially, or a month. So those easy, steady state, you are definitely very much looking to reinforce what that kind of those zone 2 efforts feel like. What good mechanics should feel like. And this, mid of the week, this you could be coming off the back of a big weekend of training. You've got obvious fatigue build up in your legs. Again, those easy efforts on that Monday morning or that Monday afternoon, or even tracking into that Tuesday. What are we thinking about? Those are the kind of the basics that we want to be kind of leaning into. Good mechanics, repeatable mechanics, where you are holding good extension through your hips, through your shoulders, good head position, good arm drive. You're staying nice and light and springy in your footstep for that entire effort. If we were to move in towards more of an interval-based session, again, universally, we're looking at a Tuesday, Thursday kind of track sessions, group training sessions. You may have been given an interval-based session within your program. What is our intention? Well, it's definitely to produce more force through your feet. We are looking to work your body to higher levels of intensity. We are looking to then push you towards understanding what an RPE of 7 or 8 out of 10 may kind of feel like. Some people who have spent a long time working at these lower intensities, they kind of living in this zone 2 effort, really, really find it hard to kind of tap into more speed. And there's a hesitancy, there's a fear that they're going to break moving into these kind of upper echelons of speed, etc. But that is something that you want to be kind of working on, because that type of load, that type of force being put through your joints, through your muscles, through your tendons, your ligaments, that's what builds resilience. A lot of people struggle to build resiliency in their running. They kind of keep falling short. They keep picking up these recurring injuries because they lack intensity. They don't have enough bouts of intensity within their running programming. So this type of training, you're looking to, work on your joint angles. Like, you're looking to lean into your efforts. You're looking to drive with more force through your legs, through your arms. You're looking to make sure that you're actually, what are those coaching cues? You're pushing through the big toe, pushing through your balls of your feet. You're looking to actually maintain good extension, like upright position in your efforts. If you're doing 30-second intervals, 60-second intervals, you're doing hill efforts, even descending efforts. Like, you're trying to put small bouts of intensity into your body and then letting it recover. These are the objectives, because we're trying to build this level of tolerance in your tissues. From a physiological standpoint, people can kind of forget why we're doing that. Well, you're trying to stress the body and then let it adapt. Stress the body, let it adapt. A lot of distance trail runners, they lack this within their programming. And as a result, they are actually creating this wear and tear. They're eroding away at this level of resilience, to the point where they then they succumb to these kind of tendinopathies and things, because they've lacked intensity, they've lacked force production within their training. So we want to be bringing this type of interval-based training in, whether it's hill, track, like you're just doing it on flat, but you're doing it very much we're doing it on a minimal dose effect. But we want to be exploring those high levels of RPE, perceived exertion. We want to be exploring those, getting your heart rate high and then getting it to recover as quickly as possible within that required 60, 90-second recovery. So it's a very, very powerful tool to actually start to really build some injury resiliency into your body, into your program. And then lastly is our longer efforts at the weekend. For most of us, because of the structure of our weeks, our timetables, those longer longer efforts at the weekend. I don't want to say steady state, because they're not. Because if you're starting to explore trails, you're starting to get out, they should be a mix of different kind of qualities. And I think that's one of the most important things. It's some of these longer trail efforts, time on feet, decision making, like testing equipment, like understanding like where your weaknesses lie, and then reinforcing and working on those as much as possible. These are some of the qualities that you're looking for within those longer weekend runs. If you're trying to accumulate time and you're getting up to like 90-minute runs, 2-hour runs, you're testing fueling, you're testing hydration, you're starting to understand what works for you in terms of equipment, in terms of like utilizing poles, like that you're putting layers on, taking layers off. There's so many different qualities that you want to be exploring within those longer kind of efforts. And again, I hesitate because some of these kind of efforts can be done throughout the week. It depends on like your timetable and how it works for you. But you want to be exploring your skill sets. You want to be kind of working different terrains. I talk about a lot of people don't get enough elevation within their trail programs, trail running programs. So if you have the opportunity to find some form of ascent and descent, then maybe you're repeating that. Like maybe you're finding an area that has some requires you to do some better sighting. So you're really having to work on actually like kind of sighting where your foot and handholds are. Perfect. Are you repeating that? Like, don't be afraid to go back and do that bit again and again. Like working with a pack, working with poles, working on it. Like there's so many things that you can be working on within those. So the objectives are going to be varied. Some people, it is simply time on feet. Right, let's just keep building things up. And we're building up this kind of general physical preparation, like preparedness. You're just allowing your body to tolerate the trails in their kind of simplicity. You're spending more time on your feet. But as you start to kind of work towards an event and it has significantly more complex terrain to it, you want to be exploring these qualities more. Like, okay, where don't you feel confident? Where do you feel like you've broken down in the past? Where do you feel like you need to be spending more time? Well, those are the aspects that we want to be kind of dialing in on. And we've got people training towards 200 milers all the way through to their first kind of half marathon trail runs. But there's different qualities for different people. But there's so many little objectives that you could be looking to target within those runs. And it's understanding that, yes, you can work from like just templated kind of just time and distances, but there's so much more to really understanding and seeing greater benefits from your training program when you start to go a little bit deeper. What have your previous injuries been? What potentially are going to be the things that rear their ugly head later on down the trail? What do you need to be making sure that you're thinking about? Like some people have reoccurring issues through their one side over another. So when you're out on the trail, when you're in those short, more interval-based sessions during the week, even when you're running those easy endurance efforts, biomechanically, where potentially are you going to start to fall apart? What do you really need to be dialing in on? Making sure that you are maintaining good cadence. Maybe you're not just descending on the right side all the time. You're actually alternating every 30 seconds, every 10 steps, whatever it is. But you're just bringing this level of movement efficiency, but you're finding better ways to maintain good economy across those. You're moving efficiently across these kind of terrains. And it just comes within the kind of the context, the dialogue of your programming. And it will be based on your previous training history, based on your previous injury history. But guys, don't just take a lot of your sessions on face value. Just take some time. If you're looking at a 12-week block right now, you've got a couple of weeks of programming in front of you. What are your objectives from every one of those sessions? Because when you break it down, it could be as little as 30 sessions left before you take on your first 50 or 100, or you want to be able to turn up and have trained as best as possible. Can you take a couple of minutes just to kind of like dial in and go, what am I looking to achieve out of this one session? And don't get me wrong, there is just that ability just to run out the door and just tick a box and just enjoy being out there. Totally get it. But if you're someone who is struggling coming back from an injury, you're someone who is looking to see better results. What are your objectives? What are we looking to achieve from these types of runs? And okay, and we can go into the detail of more runs, but I think those constructs, looking at those three types of run, the interval-based, hill-based session, you're looking at your kind of easy, steady state kind of midweek runs, and then you've got your longer duration runs at the weekend. Those kind of objectives are really going to help you kind of just dial in a little bit more and a week on week. And it just helps you kind of squeeze out some of those weaknesses that maybe have caught you out in the past, and give you more and more and more confidence, but also more understanding of yourself, of how you've got to better tolerate those distances, those speeds, those times on feet over the long distance. So I hope that was useful, just for some food for thought. And guys, as always happy to talk more about this. Speak soon.